Good morning and welcome back, YouTube. It is Monday morning, January 23rd, 2023, 5:41 a.m. And I have no idea why this car in front of me has its hazard lights on. They were on pretty much all the way down Roosevelt. And now they're not. I wonder if he just now noticed they were on.
Causing a little bit of a problem, and that's a crash northbound I-17 right near Northern. Traffic getting by in the HOV lane now. We still have that.
Well, that sounds inconvenient. I already checked the traffic, or I wouldn't be vlogging right now. Once I get up to I-10, it looks like it's pretty much going to be clear all the way home. Of course, I'm going to trying to keep an ear on KTAR just in case an accident happens, since I'm shooting video instead of watching my traffic view that I usually watch. So yeah, the first fourth of the shift, if you want to call it the first fourth of the shift, since I didn't even clock in until 7:44. First fourth of the shift went pretty smooth, or I went pretty rough. As you saw at the end of my last video, I was. Hang on, let's see what's up.
Right now,
what's news?
John Roller mentioned the snow level dropped, making for a slippery drive on I-17. In fact, the northbound lanes have been shut down between Cordes Junction and Camp Verde. 10 people are dead, another 10 injured in a shooting at a Lunar New Year celebration in Monterey Park, California, near LA. The suspected gunman, a 72-year-old man, apparently killed himself as SWAT teams were closing in on his van. The motive isn't known. Multiple sources are reporting that Arizona Democratic Congressman Ruben Gallego announced today that he's going to take a run at Kyrsten Sinema's U.S. Senate seat in 2024. You're never more than 15 minutes away from today's top story on Arizona's news station, KTAR News.
All right, mortgage costs were way up in 2022. Now, that was largely...
That kind of makes me want to link to the video of Ruben Gallego arguing with an ASU PD police officer in downtown Phoenix as to why he somehow thought it was okay for him to be driving with expired plates. It's amazing to me that guy is still in politics after that. Anyway, yeah, not a fan of Ruben Gallego, to put it very mildly. Somehow he keeps getting reelected here in the West Phoenix hood, back to city council. Anyway, got almost 2 more years for I need to worry about that next election, so I should just try to put that out of my mind. It is going to be interesting though, since Kyrsten Sinema has renounced being a Democrat and won't be part of the Democratic primary. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see who is in that primary. Not that I'll be voting in it, but it'll just be interesting. It'll be entertainment. Since I'm sure I'll still be here in 2 years, I don't see me ever escaping Phoenix at this point. And that reminds me of something that a woman who claimed to be a psychic. Well, all these fools passing on the right. Wow. Dude should do something about his exhaust. This woman who claimed to be a psychic, really pretty woman, at the mental health clinic that I go to. And I want to say it was before the clinic was located where it is located now at Windsor and 3rd Street. I'm trying to remember where the clinic was before there. I've gone through them through two relocations. When I first started going to that clinic, I was still married when I first started going to that clinic. I had right towards the end of my marriage, I had a really bad breakdown that resulted in me on inpatient care at I forget what the hell the hospital is called, but it's just north of downtown Mesa, and it's got a different name anyway. It's like Valley Wise something now, but it used to have a different name. I think it was Desert Vista Hospital back then. Anyway, I got released from there. That's a pretty interesting story. I got released from there in a court hearing. I wonder if I still have an audio recording of that court hearing. That was a very interesting court hearing. Yeah, whenever you're anytime somebody is found to be it basically needs to be I want to say incarcerated, but technically it's not incarcerated, but on court-ordered inpatient care. Committed? I think that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, whenever somebody is committed pursuant to a court order, it can be done just on the basis of affidavits. I think it takes 4 affidavits. One of which was filled out by my ex-wife. That was helpful. Anyway, after a certain amount of time, they have to give you a court hearing. And I mean, you can waive it. Just say, yeah, I want to stay in the hospital, and whatever. But no, and to be fair, I was having a hell of a breakdown. That was pretty much my pretty much happened on my 33rd birthday, and I don't remember much of that night. I was definitely having a very, very extreme schizophrenic episode. I still would have rather have been in the care of family and friends rather than locked up against my will, losing my freedom in a hospital. But in the hospital, I don't even remember how the hell I got on this topic. But anyway, while I was in the hospital, I really don't remember the first day. I'm kind of vague on the second day. I do remember asking a very uptight middle-aged woman who had a bad case of resting bitch face if my wife and I could have conjugal visits. She didn't like that at all. Not the wife. The wife was actually all for it, but my social worker with the resting bitch face. And my feeling was that like she wasn't doing any conjugating herself, so damned if she was going to let any of her patients do any of that. But anyway, yeah, it was probably like the first or second day after I was there where I started to kind of get my head together and wrap around, like where I was and what I was doing there. And of course they had me medicated to the point of just stupid, but I found the best thing I could do to get my mind back against all the medication that was being forced on me that was kind of taking my mind away from me was to drink large amounts of brewed tea. The tap water there was super hot, and I had a couple different, I don't know, I probably had 2 or 3 different 20-ounce soda bottles that family had brought in for me. And then after I drank the Coca-Cola out of them, I kept the bottles. And every morning during breakfast, I would grab pretty much as many tea bags as I could, stuff them in my pockets, and then pretty much throughout the day, I would just keep putting hot water, because it was like scalding hot water out of the tap in there, which doesn't seem like a pretty good thing to make available to people who are having mental issues. It's kind of funny, like I couldn't have shoelaces. I couldn't have access to shoelaces in my shoes because I might, you know, hang myself or strangle somebody with it. But I was given access to scalding hot, damn near boiling water. Yeah, the people that run mental institutions tend not to think a lot of stuff through. Anyway, yeah, the water was sufficiently hot enough to brew tea fairly quickly, too. Yeah, I would, in the drawers where my clothes were, they never fucked with my drawers, go into the bathroom and get the water to the point it was scalding hot. Put the tea bags into the bottle, fill it with the scalding hot water, close the lid on it, and set it in my dresser. And pretty much as quick as I would down, you know, and I'd have to let it cool off, you know, before it would even be drinkable because it would be hot. And I would, you know, once it got cold enough to drink, I'd drink it. I pounded a lot of those to the point I was like peeing constantly, but it was putting so much caffeine. It was basically flushing out the meds and then putting so much caffeine in my system that within, I want to say within probably 2-3 days, I was certainly getting my mind back a lot better than anybody else that was in that hospital. I mean, shit, I remember when my daughter was in there. There were a couple of times I went to visit her there, and this is 2 years ago-ish. They had her so messed up on medication that she couldn't even, I don't even think she knew I was there. And it was really tragic. And that's how a lot of people are there. And you know, and I guess it's all in the name of we're stabilizing them. Yeah, what I needed to get stabilized was caffeine and sugar. And fortunately, they provided a lot of Lipton tea bags, which did the trick. But anyway, as I was doing that, I proceeded to peruse the court papers. Not my first time perusing those type of court papers, and I've always been pretty good at reading and understanding court documentation. I mean, I feel like if memory serves, according to standardized tests, I was reading at a collegiate level in like 5th grade. So legal documents not a struggle for me. Anyway, so yeah, I'm reading through all of that, reading through the affidavits. And, yeah, one thing I remember that was on one of the affidavits was I had mentioned that I had hung out with Ronnie James Dio, and so the psychiatrist had made a note of that and said that it was evidence of delusions of grandeur, which, I mean, obviously we can't ask Dio now, rest his soul, but yeah, Ronnie was still alive back then. You know, should have gave that man a call. Hey, do you know Dan the taxi man? As that had happened recently enough, I think if they could have actually got through, I think he would have remembered me. As I mentioned in my last video, about when I was in San Diego and hung out with Ben Gebert, and then shortly after my divorce, during the penance of my divorce, I think it was, when I saw him, and I was pretty much living on the streets, and I was not doing so great mentally, but he still very much remembered me. Generally speaking, when I've met musicians, and then I've met them, years later, they've remembered me. So at least I can be memorable like that. Anyway, no, I couldn't possibly know Ronnie James Dio. So yeah, delusions of grandeur. Anyway, going through those papers, I did notice that there were some definite inconsistencies in it. And it wasn't until a few days later that the hospital had presented their recommendations. And of course I think they were asking for something like 2 months of inpatient care. Which to me is the essentially I'd be incarcerated for 2 months. I mean, it's not a jail, it's a hospital, but I'm under lock and key and I can't leave. And if I do manage to get out, which is highly unlikely, I would be facing the same sort of escaping charges as if I had escaped from jail. So yeah, basically it's jail without a criminal charge. It's amazing that sort of thing is even legal, but it is. And I did have a private attorney at that time, named Mark. And I think I've talked about him before. Mark Adair, met him through a mechanic. He collected and raced. He was very much into Corvettes, and at the time, my hobby car, my dream car I was trying to put together back then, which I ended up losing in the year 2000, but I had a Mitsubishi Starion. It was gold. The car was amazing when it ran, which, to be honest, was not very often, but anyway, yeah, I met him at my mechanic's place, and him and I became pretty good friends, and he kind of got me through my probation revocation stuff. And so anyway, when I found myself in there, I reached out to him, and he was completely down to represent me, and he did come in and see me at the hospital. I don't even think he billed me, if memory serves. He just kind of came in to see it and make sure I was all right. I kind of told me, we looked over the stuff, and I'd already kind of had this plan in my head of how I was going to go about trying to fight their recommendation of me being functionally incarcerated in a hospital for 2 months. When at that point, I mean, I knew I still had some mental issues, don't get me wrong, but I was doing pretty well on hot sweet tea. I was brewing myself in my dresser. And I had found basically some inconsistencies in their affidavits, and pointed those out to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you're dead on. It's like they can only proceed on points in which all the affidavits agree, and the only thing that they all agreed on was that they felt I was a danger to others." So when I had my hearing, basically the burden of proof was on me, my attorney, which ended up not being Mark. Mark was definitely willing to do the hearing for me, but he didn't have the free time to do it when it was scheduled, because they have to schedule those hearings real quick. I didn't have free time to do it. He said that if he would have done it, I would have had to put in that he would have had to put in a continuation. He would have put in a notice of appearance and put in a continuation. But he honestly thought that the way I was describing, you know, basically we talked it out, and he kind of gave me a plan, which I sort of already worked out before I met with him, about how, you know, just proceed on this, and you just need to get all the witnesses that are in here, and just prove that there's, you know, just basically show by testimony that they're failing, and get them to not, basically show that there's no evidence. The burden of proof would be on the hospital's attorney, which basically county attorney representative, to show that I was a danger to others, and there was absolutely no evidence of it. Even the affidavits, there was nothing in the affidavits or in any of the treatment notes or anything that had been had been disclosed. And of course, they can't use anything in court that's not disclosed. Anything that would suggest that I was a danger to anybody else, possibly a danger to myself, but all the doctors on the affidavits and then my ex-wife's affidavit didn't agree on that. You know, they agreed on it was danger to others, but there was no evidence that I hadn't done anything to hurt anybody, or even, you know, legitimately threaten anybody. Anyway, for the most part, the only witnesses that I had was my mother, my stepfather, and my wife. Basically, I had to have my attorney, and I went forward with a public defender, just because I could get my hearing in right away. I would have had to wait. I would have had to put in a continuation for Mark. Mark didn't have anything coming up for like 2 weeks, and God knows if I put in a continuation, they would have probably continued it for a month, you know, maybe longer. So, you know, once you put in for a continuation, you've waived your right for a speedy trial. So, ooh, flashy lights up ahead. So, I need to slow down and see what's going on here. This doesn't look good. Oh, it was just a school bus. Okay. From the lights, I kind of figured it was a fire truck. Anyway, I can't believe that sign is still red like that at the CVS. So yeah, I had pretty solid testimony from my mother, where, you know, she had said that she wasn't worried that I would hurt anybody. She was just very concerned that how people would react to me being so erratic, and that people would try to hurt me, and that I might respond to that in self-defense. But she didn't really believe that I would do anything. And then there was also, you know, they tried to go for the angle of, well, isn't he a danger to his baby? And my daughter Allison was probably about, I'll say 14 months old at the time. So of course they're asking questions, you know, well, did he see his daughter at that time? Yes. And what did she do? Well, she ran to him. Well, what did he do? He picked her up, he hugged her, he held her. Did she seem afraid of him? No, that's daddy. So now, of course, one of the affidavits that was suggesting that I was a danger to others was the one filed by my wife, and basically what my attorney had to do was, and I'm sure this was like probably had a lot to do with what ended my marriage, but basically the attorney basically went and made it very clear that the bulk of the stuff that she had put in the affidavit was not actually things that she had witnessed, but was actually hearsay. Which, of course, pretty much everybody knows hearsay is not admissible in a court of law, and it's not admissible in an affidavit either. You know, if you say in an affidavit is basically a sworn written statement in lieu of testimony. And if you've got an affidavit that says that something happened, you need to have witnessed that yourself. You can't write down in an affidavit that something happened that you did not see yourself. But she did on that affidavit. So yeah, basically made her look like a fool on the stand. I testified. I did well. Of course, I drank a buttload of tea going into the hearing, so my mind, such as it was, would be at least going quickly. And anyway, I got released. Unfortunately, once all the medication that I was on went out my system, and I was just on caffeine and sugar. Yeah, I completely ran off the rails after getting released. But one of the things that I did prior to that happened like the next day. Might have even happened later that day. It's been a long time. I don't remember exactly. But what ended up happening was even though the hospital did not want to release me, they were ordered by a judge to release me. Still had they still had the recommendation for I was still, it didn't make the finding of seriously mentally ill go away. Nor did it, and at that point I qualified for state mental health care and coverage, and they still recommended me to a doctor and clinic, Dr. Levitt at Heatherbrae Clinic, and I did an intake later that day at Heatherbrae Clinic. And Heatherbrae Clinic, that's what I was talking about, mental health clinic. The Heatherbrae Clinic became, eventually, Windsor Clinic. And I've heard they're moving again. I forget where they're going. It's supposed to be within a few blocks. But I didn't need to go back there. I know I need to do a treatment plan with whoever my new case manager is. I went there a few weeks ago and saw my doctor. And my case manager, who I've had for years, like over a decade, she's gone. That makes me sad. And my therapist quit. I know I've mentioned that a few times. And I knew that was going to happen. No shock there. And that sucks. I haven't even tried to get therapy with somebody else. I don't know. I probably should, but I don't know if I will. It's tough for me to open up to somebody new like that. So anyway, that's how I ended up getting assigned to the Heatherbrae Clinic. Heatherbrae Clinic, eventually they shut it down, and it was over at like 19th Avenue in Heatherbrae, which is 1 block north of Indian School. It relocated, and I forget what they called the clinic then. I think they called it Uptown Clinic or maybe Midtown Clinic. But it was at 7th Avenue, just south of Osborne. Right across the street from where the Whole Foods is now. Back then it used to be a Bash's'. In fact, I believe that was the first ever Bash's', if memory serves. And one of my best friends has got a really awesome YouTube video. I should put a link to his channel in the description. He does some pretty badass videos with drones. Kind of syncs the footage up to music. Anyway, he went in there. I think maybe the last day that Bash's' was open, or certainly the last week the Bash's' was open, when it was just about empty, and actually got away with flying a drone and filming the footage inside the original Bash's'. So I haven't watched that video in a long time. I definitely need to link that to this video and give that another watch. That's a trip. So many memories with me tied into that Bash's'. I've not gone back inside it since it's a Whole Foods. I'm not about spending my whole paycheck on Whole Foods to eat. I'm going into Fry's. My goal is to spend less than $20 on groceries and have it tide me over for a week. That's my goal. Because I've been watching Caleb. He's trying to. Oh man, yeah. God, his videos I was watching over the weekend. And people, he'd be like, well, how much you going out to eat? And they'd always try to downplay it to him, and then he'd go through their credit card statement or their bank statement, checking account statement. He'd be reading all the restaurants they were at. That was one I watched. This woman spent a ridiculous amount of money at a place buying salads. It's like, it's cheap to prepare salads. That woman's like, oh, but it's really expensive to buy healthy groceries. It's like, not when you're eating salads. You need to take yourself to HEB and get a head of romaine lettuce. So good. That woman was, oh man, I should link that video too. That woman was crazy. She's making like $80,000 a year, and she was just like head over heels in debt, and had a FICO score that was like 200 less than mine. Wow, crazy. There's one guy, another one I watched on his channel. Well, I binged on his channel over the weekend while I was laying in bed. One of the videos was this Native American guy. He was like in his early 30s, maybe mid 30s, yeah, early 30s. Already had like major gray beard. Like I did not really get any gray until I was well into my late 40s. I mean, this guy barely into his 30s, got major gray going on. I mean, that could be just genetics, but I don't know. I'm thinking stress. Guy had some financial stress going on, but yeah, Caleb broke down the numbers, and this dude was spending basically I want to say 30% of his disposable income on fast food. And he was doing super cheap fast food, kind of like I do super cheap fast food and 7-Eleven hot dogs. Yeah, gross. Not that I don't occasionally get that sort of food, but, still gross. Anyway, got sidetracked on that again. Where I was trying to go before I started talking about my mental health, my hearing where I got released from inpatient care. That's the last time I've ever been on inpatient care, by the way. Now, I've definitely been hospitalized a couple of times since then for mental health reasons, but it was all voluntary, not court-ordered. I've managed to... Certainly, I've had a couple of times where it might have been a good idea, but I don't know. I'd rather do it when I'm thinking of that close to the edge. I try to make sure it happens voluntarily. I try to at least keep enough hold of my head that it doesn't get court ordered. That way, when I feel like I'm ready to leave, I can leave, as opposed to being behind lock and key and being forced to be over medicated. That guy's like struggling with a floor polisher. I had a weird feeling that guy's stealing that. Nah, I think he's a contractor because there's some other equipment there. It sure looked sus for a moment there, though. Anyway, what the heck was I talking about? It got me talking. Oh, I was trying to explain how the clinic had changed locations. Anyway, back when it was on, I was trying to talk about the psychic, and I'm trying to remember where I was even headed to that. I don't know. My memory's shit. So yeah, there's one time I went into the clinic back when they were calling it Midtown Clinic, and it was at across the street from the original Bashas there on 7th Avenue, just south of Osborne. And this very attractive woman came in and approached me. I always love it when an attractive woman approaches me. Don't get nearly enough of that. Came up and she told me she thought I was very beautiful, which was kind of nice. Like, wow, okay, I was kind of thinking that myself about you, but thank you. And then she's like, she's like, can I touch you? I can just feel I can feel vibes off of you, and I'm a psychic. If I can just hug you and hold your hands, she goes, I'll be able to read you and tell you stuff. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay. I'm like, not like she had to twist my arm to, you know, to hold my hands and hold me. I was all about that. She was quite fine. And most likely crazy, because, hey, she's going to the same clinic I'm going to. But she said she was psychic. But the thing that she said to me that has always stuck with me, and is the main reason I probably remember her. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't remember her at all. Oh, there's another Saturn over there on the left. The thing she said was, she goes, she said it was the most random thing. And mind you, we'd only discussed, the only thing we talked about is her being a psychic and the fact that we both found each other very attractive. That was it. And then she says, you need to move. I'm like, really? And at that point, like, the last thing on my mind is moving. Like, my karaoke business was happening pretty well. I had the apartment in Tempe then. I do think this is probably before Lily was born or conceived, but I was doing well. Like, I had my CRX and I had a steady stream of FWPs at that time. I was in a good overall in a pretty good place then, and I was thinking I was about to find me another one, and she and then what she said next absolutely floored me. She goes, yeah, you're never going to be truly happy until you move back to Denver. I'd never said a thing to that woman about having lived in Denver. I hadn't said a thing to anybody in that building that would have been within earshot, or probably hadn't mentioned having lived in Denver to anybody in months. That's not something I talk about very often. It's been a long time since I've lived in Denver. There was nothing I was wearing that would have made her think that I had any connection to Denver at all. There's nothing like that. Just was like, where did she get that from? And generally speaking, I don't believe in psychics. I think it's a bunch of... But every now and then, something, you know, there was no... Where'd she get that from? I don't know. I can't explain that. Anyway. I mean, generally speaking, I'm happy being here in Phoenix, and I'm not looking to leave, and I figure I'm going to be here. As I said, I'm going to be here for the next election. See me leaving anytime soon. Although I got to deal with my Benz, or I might end up getting my ass evicted, but that's a story for the next video. But yeah, I do occasionally think about moving. And every now and then when I think about moving, I think of that random woman who was very attractive. And we didn't exchange numbers, and I never saw her again, unfortunately. But yeah, she said I'd never truly be happy until I moved back to Denver. And I did take a trip to Denver many years after that. I want to say probably about 4 years ago. God, it might be 5 years ago now. It's been a while. And it was a very interesting and enjoyable trip. Anyway, on that note, I'm sitting in front of Fry's. I'm wasting time. I need to go inside and get myself some groceries. I'm out of bread. I'm out of bologna. Always good time to see what's in the discount stuff. And I'm waiting for my friend with the drones to call me and let me know he's off work, because we need to move my Benz. That's a problem, and I'll explain that in the next video. Yeah, so much for me spending 20 bucks or less on groceries. I ended up spending like 58 bucks. Dang. So I wasn't going to start shooting video until I got back in my car, but I wanted to get this on video. It's not very often I see any rental scooters in front of this Fry's. I'm pretty sure Bird's coverage area ends exactly a half-mile east of here, and it only extends east of there. Although this isn't a Bird, this is a spin scooter. I've never seen this particular model. These were definitely not in use the last time I rode a spin scooter. And that's new as well, the sticker that says Lyft Spin. I have no idea how long Lyft has been partnered with Spin. Also says Lyft there. I do remember there was a time Lyft had their own scooters, and those went away a long time ago. I do have a couple of them that were left behind after Lyft packed them all away. Oh wow! Hold up! Check this out. So that, I thought, maybe a fluke. Somebody might have rode it down here and been what do you call it? So they're geofenced, and I'm not sure if I've explained. I'm sure I've explained what geofencing is. Basically, there's in fact, I've explained it several times. Basically, all rental scooters are tracked by GPS, and if you get outside of a specific area, they'll either shut down or they'll slow way down. And my understanding that this Fry's is outside of everybody, just geofenced area. In fact, the last I heard, Phoenix had roughly a 1.5 square mile area downtown that was the only place that scooters were allowed to operate in the city of Phoenix. And for the most part, Lime and Lime is back in Phoenix, by the way. But when I worked for Phoenix, when I worked for Lime, when they shut down Arizona operations back in January of 2020, I forget how. You could definitely go farther west of here on a Lime, but that was they were just kind of bending the rules, like just sort of how Bird runs to 48th Street. It's not considered Phoenix in their map. It's considered Scottsdale. They've just been kind of treading the rules. They don't. I'm pretty sure they've never had permission from Phoenix to be operating there. Anyway, this is pretty cavalier. Like I see one in front of the store. I think maybe somebody rode it here and got outside the geofenced area and was just persistent enough to keep trucking along at like 3 miles per hour until they got to the store. But 3 of them? Wow, and these have like a new cable lock as well. 2 out of 3 cable lock to the bike rack here. That looks to me like Spin is staging it here. So new model Spin scooter, new partnership with at least new to me, new partnership with Lyft, and service here at Arcadia Crossing, former location of Thomas Mall. As soon as I get home, I'm going to have to definitely update my download and update my Spin app. Re-download it. I haven't used Spin in quite some time. It's probably been over a year since I've used Spin. I definitely have an account with Spin though. At least I did. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if I got some ride credits with them. Still waiting to be redeemed. Anyway, that was the expensive thing right there. I realized that when I fed the cats before I left out to work yesterday evening, that they only had 1 other can left. So that was not even what I was coming in here for. I was literally just coming in for bread and bologna and maybe a couple other, and see what's on clearance. But past cat food on the way to the clearance aisle, and was like, oh dang, yeah, cats are out of food. And I found a lot more cool stuff in the clearance aisle than normal, and then I decided to grab some cans of the Arizona iced tea, which interestingly enough is more expensive is less expensive in those larger cans than it is individual larger cans than it is in like the multiple pack of the 11.5 ounce cans. Kind of surprised me. I figured the multi-pack would be cheaper, but it was quite a bit cheaper per ounce to get the bigger cans. So, which is fine. I don't have a problem drinking. Easily will down that much tea. There's bigger cans. All right, so yeah, a little more than I expected to spend on groceries, but I got quite a bit more food than I intended to get. So I'm trying to figure out how long it's been since I actually went shopping inside Costco. I remember getting one of those big boxes of Frito-Lay single serving size chips while I was kind of hiding in bed yesterday during the day. Grabbed a little bag of Doritos out of there, and it smelled a little less than fresh. They tasted fine, but they just smelled a tiny bit off, and I looked and they expired about a month ago. So it doesn't seem like that long ago that I got those, but then I grabbed a bag of Wavy Lays out of there, and they expired about 6 weeks ago, so not as optimistic about those. Sometimes the oils and the chips kind of turn rancid, and if they did, whatever, toss them out. It's not the end of the world, but it kind of sucks. And I got no one but myself to blame for that. When Circle K had that deal going on with the Bugles, where I was getting a bag of Bugles, I think it was $1.50 with my Sip and Save drink. I kept throwing those in there, and sometimes I get the Chex Mix with that, and sometimes I get some other chips on clearance. I just, whatever chips I kept throwing them in there. And you know, I know with all food items it's supposed to be first in, first out, rotate your stock. But no, I just kept throwing those other chips on top of the ones in the box, and I managed to let the ones in the box potentially go bad. So that kind of sucks. So anyway, I said I was going to talk about the bins. I need to talk about the bins. You know what? I moved it a little over a week ago, and such high hopes completely abandoned. My motivation during the weekends has just been crap, and then when it's not the weekends, I'm working. So I know it was pretty rainy last week, so there was that as well. Anyway, but yeah, I did, you know, and I don't even think I've uploaded that video yet, come to think of it, but it'll be uploaded by the time y'all see this. Yeah, so I got the bins moved a little over a week ago, or Friday before last, I think, and I kept saying I was going to go out and start it, make sure that the engine started, at least try to start it. I know the battery was, Rob said it was dead as a doornail, but he had charged it up, and he said they started it, but the transmission just was not useful at all. He just said it just spun and spun, would not engage. Anyway, the ignition on the bins is completely electronic. Like, it's not I mean, there's obviously a mechanical thing as well, but it's I'm sure I've shown it before on video, but it's not like a traditional type key. It's a electronic fob sort of thing, and it goes in a little hole in the dash. And I have people who have newer cars should be familiar with that, or anybody else who has a Mercedes made in 2001 or later. It was in a fob, and it senses whatever RF or whatever it senses to know if it's the right key for the car, and you turn the ignition. Obviously, in order for those electronic circuits to work, to sense whether or not it's the right key, there needs to be charge in the battery. Otherwise, you can't even turn the key. Unlike my Saturn. My Saturn can have a dead as a doornail battery. I can still turn the key and put it in neutral and push the thing. But with the bins, I can't do that. If the battery's dead, I can't turn the key, and without the key turned, I can't get it into neutral. So it's stuck. It's stuck. It's completely stuck in park right now. I did say I was going to get on Amazon and buy a car cover for it so it wouldn't look unsightly. Yeah, I didn't do that because I just am really bad about not getting things done. Didn't think to lock the doors because I was planning on going the next day and cleaning it out, and I don't know, I was going to work on the thing, and once I got it in place I just ignored the damn thing. Well, anyway, my neighbors are upset about it because the local homeless fentanyl junkies have decided that that's a good place to climb in and get out of the wind, get out of the rain, and smoke blues. Fucking fabulous. Anyway, so yeah, they've been complaining to my landlord. My landlord's been complaining to me. Texted him a couple days ago, said that I would try to move it to my covered parking spot because I don't, it's not like it's brutally hot out this time of year. I don't have a problem parking in the uncovered parking with my Saturn. Anyway, yeah. Went out to the bins to find out that the battery had completely died again. Now, when I got it back from the guy that hauled it, and I shot a little video of that, I mean, obviously, I don't know if Rob actually started the motor. I believe he did. But certainly I was able to turn the ignition and turn the wheel and shift it in and out of gear and stuff. So there was enough charge for that to work. I didn't try to turn on the lights or anything. I do believe it was beeping at me, or dinging at me when I turned the ignition. Anyway, that battery's completely dead now. And I did show in another video where the car had got broken into. And the car had been broken into, and the car stereo was stolen out of it. Well, they also pretty much took the center part of my dashboard apart. And that's where the electronic lock is. Now, I do have, I mean, I can always lock it mechanically, and I do have like a special key for that. It's a goofy looking little, another very Mercedes kind of looking key. Pull that one out. Of course, now it's dark in here, so you won't be able to see it all that well, but where'd the Benz key? I can feel it. It's in my pocket here. Yeah, that little thing, funny looking thing. Yeah, that's the Benz door key for when you're not using the key fob to get in, and key fob doesn't always work. and that's mechanical, so it doesn't have to be electricity going through it. And so I did lock the front doors, and I locked the back right door, but the back left door, the physical knob to raise and lower it is broken, so I couldn't lock that. So I don't know if the junkies are still getting in the car and doing drugs or not. Anyway, I got some unhappy neighbors and an unhappy landlord over it. When, as I said, Priscilla stayed the night with me late Friday night, early Saturday morning. No bedroom fun. She slept in my bed fully clothed. Just basically took up space in my bed. Prevented me from, calling an escort or something. Not like that was on the agenda, but it would have been cool if it was. When she ended up leaving in the morning was when I was getting the text messages from my landlord, and I asked if she could help me move it. And the plan was just to put the key in it and turn it and just kind of push it over to my cover spot. Yeah, couldn't even turn the key because the battery's completely dead. So that sucks. Yeah. Anyway, my friend with the drones is coming over to help me out with that soon. I think he gets off in about an hour-ish. So, yeah, he works graveyard in another warehouse of sorts. So, yeah. So that's a good thing. It's a little, I don't know. I could maybe, no, the car's more than I could push myself. And I did tell him that, we got to jump start it to even get it into neutral. And I didn't want to go into any details with that with my landlord, because the last thing I need is him to get on my case about, well, you can't have a disabled vehicle parked here. And obviously the problem isn't being disabled. Certainly I've had neighbors with disabled vehicles here before, and I've had my own vehicles here, like, not running before as well. The big issue was that it was just sitting there unlocked, and they were junkies over there doing drugs. Freaking fabulous. I really wish they'd, instead of getting on my ass, I wish they would have pulled vehicles tight against each side of the bend so the junkies couldn't open the doors, and then called the cops. I think that would have been a great way to handle that. But not that the cops seem to do anything about people doing fentanyl in Phoenix anymore, but I don't know. I keep hoping that they will. Anyway, on that note, I got to get my groceries in. And so my friend, a text message, let him know I'm home and ready to try dealing with the bends. And hopefully we can get that handled tomorrow. And I think as soon as I get home, I am going to actually get on it and get that car cover ordered for it. I do, at this point, it's the cat's out of the bag that it's an inoperable vehicle. So my game plan to try to sell the more valuable parts out of it before sending it off as a junk car. Yeah, I need to expedite that if I'm going to milk that for any money. Oh, speaking of selling stuff, that's some good news. I know I've mentioned a few times that I wasn't really sure what the status of my eBay account was, because I had gotten a couple orders months ago and didn't get them shipped, and then got inquiries from customers about it, and they opened cases with eBay, and I just didn't respond at all. I was just working so much and tired so much, and just had so much other, between Bullocks and Amazon and Priscilla drama, I just couldn't even deal with the eBay thing. Anyway, I got an order yesterday, or maybe the day before. I noticed it in my Gmail yesterday. I sold a Chet Atkins 8-track, so that's kind of exciting. Anyway, need to get that packed. Now that I know my eBay store is back and it's actually in good standing. Yeah, I'm not going to screw up this order. I'm going to get that shipped today and get myself a car cover. And oh yeah, and I got a brand new Death Cab for Cutie LP to listen to when I get inside. So I try to be a little functional for the next few hours before I go to sleep. Anyway, thanks for coming with me on the drive home from the grocery store, and like and subscribe if you haven't done that already, and I'll be back with more of my thoroughly exciting life later.